Tired of feeling tired? Done with diet culture? Overwhelmed by conflicting nutrition and fitness messages? Then join us, your hosts of the Nutrition Revolution podcast, as we take a deep dive into all things women's fitness and nutrition. I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Tabitha. And together we are debunking diet culture myths and giving you the tools you need to finally see the results you're looking for. It's time to revolutionize your nutrition and training. All right, listeners, hello again. One of the questions that we got from a listener recently was how to cycle track when you have gone through menopause. So you're postmenopausal, to which is actually just a really quick answer. You don't have a cycle.
Right.
So
hormones
they've packed
up. They're gone.
Yeah. So when you no longer have a cycle, when you are postmenopausal, you're not going to have a cycle that's going to dictate how you should train.
Yeah, so you're not going to experience those fluctuations like you would if you have a normal
if you're moving
cycle.
Through menstrual, follicular,
even
ovulatory, luteal.
Perimenopause would be different than being in menopause. So once your period is gone for over a year, you're considered menopause, and that's when your hormones are just where they are. This is what you have.
Postmenopausal season. So if you are a postmenopausal woman, your life is no longer dictated by a period. Congratulations.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, it's like your new birthday celebration. But there is a way to train, as your central nervous system is really the driver now of the bus. There are ways to train and patterns of training to follow for best outcomes. So let's start with what kind of training should postmenopausal women really focus on? Yeah.
So resistance training.
Yep.
Right? We want to be lifting. So one of the things that you are more prone to in menopause, and then those decades after, is osteoporosis. So as women, we want to make sure that we are lifting and building up those muscles and continuing to be strong. I think there's this myth that, after a certain age, you can't build muscle anymore. And there is
a myth. Yeah.
That's a myth. You can build muscle, and we need to have muscle. We can't strive to be skinny anymore. Like, that just is not something that, as you need to be eating well. Yeah. Right.
Strong
We've talked about
skinny.
that. You cannot strive to be as skinny as possible in your menopause state, because you have to make sure that you're putting on muscle and looking strong. And if that's your goal, it has to be about strength, not skinny, because if you're in calorie deficit all the time, chronic under eating, you're going to put your bones at risk.
Yeah, bone density at risk. And then you're at increased risk for sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle wasting and frailty. One thing that I don't like, the myth that I always hear, so it's not a myth, it's true. We do lose muscle mass at increasing rates each decade. But that sounds like, that's it. You're going to lose your muscle. There's nothing you can do. Right? No, you can strength train, eat adequate protein to maintain your muscles so you don't experience those losses.
I know people who have been in menopause and then they start with health and fitness, and they look incredible.
Yeah, and they're able to gain.
Yeah. So it's not true. Like, yes, your body is going to lose it, but it's one of those, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Exactly. And it comes down to then your lifestyle. If your lifestyle is being sedentary, a couch potato, and you don't really pay attention to what you eat, you are going to experience muscle wasting. You are going to experience bone density losses and increased visceral fat in your abdomen, so that belly fat. Yeah. Like, you are going to experience those things. But if you are training and fueling appropriately, you don't have to experience those things.
And you need to be doing that because you don't want to be 70 and fall.
And
a lot of my clients who are over the age of 50, that's when they start telling me, like, I need to work on my balance. I need to do this because I'm afraid I'm going to fall and I don't want to fall anymore. So, that's when they're like, let's start doing some strength training. And when I don't just do stand on one foot balancing drills, they're like, but I need to work on balance. And I'm like, yeah, balance is putting on muscle and being able to move your body and be strong. So
to be aware of your body in space and be able to catch yourself if you trip and
start walking backwards. That's one of my favorite things to do with people who are, on the older side, like walking backwards, doing some like power movements, like jumping and trying to get our bodies to react.
Yes. And that jumping, that multi-directional force that will stimulate bone density, stimulate the growth and maintenance of your bones to maintain and then increase bone density. So we need like that jump training. For individuals that can't jump, you can do like ball slams. You can do like push-ups off a wall. So that way you're getting that separation of like your hand and your wall.
You know what I actually really enjoy with some of those clients is the TRX movements. Have you?
Oh, I love a TRX.
Yeah. So having them hold on, because then you've got that, okay, I can hold on, I can trust my body, and then I can do like squat jumps or hops or things like that. I love TRX for that. Yeah,
that's a great training tool as well. Okay, so strength training, definitely postmenopausal women, 2 to 3 times a week, all major muscle groups, lower rep, higher weight, to stimulate the central nervous system to compensate for what estrogen used to do in helping maintain and or build muscle. And you absolutely can maintain and build muscle even after you have gone through the menopause transition. Like, you're not dead.
Yes. You have a lot of life left in you.
There's always time to improve. You just have to start.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to start, then you're not going to see those improvements, but you have to start. And it has to be more than like, oh, I'm going to do this for 6 months to a year. Like, it has to literally become what you do.
Yeah. I just watched this video of this lady. I believe it was at like the Armstrong powerlifting competition in Vegas. And she didn't start lifting until she was like 70 or 80. And she was like deadlifting.
That's crazy.
As a 90-year-old.
I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah. I think I shared it too. And
you did. I think it was your stories.
Like,
she was incredible.
So,
she was like toned and strong and a total baddie up there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that that's one of the big things that people need to realize is like, you might hear that like, you're going to lose muscle mass at an alarming rate, but it's only if you're not doing anything about it. Like, if you can eat your protein and you can move your body. So
you have to be proactive.
I think the other thing that I hear is like, I'm afraid I'm going to get injured, so they don't want to work out. And you can overdo it just like anyone else. You need to have in those rest times.
You also need to have high quality programming. So like, if you're not an exercise professional and you're just going to the gym and doing whatever, you may actually injure yourself and have increased likelihood of injury. So invest in a trainer that you trust and that is qualified. Invest in a boutique gym membership where there are trainers and coaches that are adequately trained to help you. Like, if you don't know what you're doing, you need to think of it as an investment in your health to find someone that can teach you and help you and program for you. And you're going to have better outcomes and less likelihood of injury.
Yeah. Think about how much better your life is going to be when you're not afraid to fall, or like if something does happen and you have to quickly get out of the way, you can do it without breaking a hip.
Yeah. And you're not out of fear of falling up and down stairs.
Yeah.
There's a lot of benefits. It's worth it. It's an investment in your long-term health and wellness. So strength training. And then the other aspect that women need to work on is true high-intensity interval training. So I'm talking like workouts that are like no more than 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, where you're going really, really hard and then recovering hard and kind of doing like interval style, whether it's sprint intervals or other type of like high intensity jumping and those multi-directional movements that put stress to increase the density of your bone, and that also then stimulate like the fast energetic systems in our body, to again stimulate the central nervous system to compensate for what estrogen used to do in our bodies. So the two most important, I guess you could say, forms of exercise, like it or not, strength training, good high intensity work a couple times a week.
Yeah.
And then you can have your like deload, your Pilates, your yoga, your walking, like that stuff's important too.
I always look at that stuff as like supplemental, right?
Yes,
like those things for me, like the yoga isn't necessarily my workout. Yoga is a workout. Don't hear me wrong. But yoga for me is like it's my relaxation and my meditation and my stretching and, putting my body into those positions just feels good because of my strength and my running or whatever else I'm doing. I really love the rowing machine.
I love my water rower.
Yeah. I think that one for like aging population, I think that one's such a good one. If you can go to a gym or something that has a rower to just do
low
that
impact.
It's low impact. So if you are someone who is maybe knows they have knee injuries or knows that they have trouble, like they can't do compact jumping and running on a treadmill or something like that, the rower is a really great way to get that high intensity. I love setting my phone, like setting an alarm that's like maybe a Tabata style, 30 seconds of work and then like a 10-second rest or whatever, or 20 seconds of work, 10-second rest. And just kind of going through and doing like a quick cycle of that with the rower. That's such a fun one. Or like, what's the skierg, where you're pulling that down. There's ways to get in that high intensity that doesn't necessarily have to be taxing on your joints.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be running. There's lots of
it could be biking
options that you can do. A strider, elliptical strider, rower,
boxing.
bike.
I like that one too. Like getting a box punching bag, like just going after that. And, so it's not always, I think when people hear high intensity, they either think of like a HIIT class or running, and it doesn't always necessarily have to be that. So
yeah. And if you do want to run and you like running, doing sprints, where you go as hard as you can for 30 seconds, full recovery for 90, and do that, 8 to 10 times, boom, you're done and dusted in like 25 minutes or under. And back to the like yoga, Pilates, super beneficial for stress reduction, mobility, flexibility, but it is not enough of a stimulus in the postmenopausal years for bone density maintenance and the growth and maintenance of lean mass of your muscle. So that's where I like to get my clients to use the walking, the yoga, the Pilates as their like active recovery days, right?
Perfect.
So supplement in, make the resistance training, true high intensity interval training, the meat and potatoes of your fitness programming, and then adding in the yoga and the Pilates for that mind body work, breath work, that active recovery. So to the next point though, like, how should you just every single week, every single day be doing all this resistance training and high intensity? And what I was taught in my menopause training is that it's the 2 to 1. So 2 weeks on, where for 2 weeks you are hitting those higher intensities, you're lifting heavy, all of that. And then you have 1 week that is like a deload week. And in that week, you're going to do mostly walking, Pilates, yoga, lighter impact, maybe some swimming, lower intensity for a week. And what that does is it forces the central nervous system to really absorb all of that more intense training from the previous 2 weeks and then adapt positively to that. Since you don't have a menstrual cycle to like dictate so essentially when you would be in the late luteal into the menstrual phase of your cycle where you naturally pull back, you have your deload. Instead, you're doing a 2 to 1. So 2 weeks, we're going to push the limits. We're going to really, get it done.
Yeah.
And then a week of like deload, not sedentary, but just a deload week.
Yeah. I think too, having that phase, or that programming helps you have something to look forward to, right? So like, I don't have to be 100% all of the time. I don't have to do this same workout all of the time. Rest is really important. And so if you are someone who's worried about injury, having that built-in rest is going to help just that protective portion of it. So like, all right, I'm going, my body's sore, I'm tired, I've hit all my workouts. Now I'm going into my deload so my body can kind of recover and rest and repair and then get back into it. So
helps
you're not
avoid
constantly
burnout.
feeling beat all the time.
Decreases your risk of injury, decreases that risk of injury. Also just helps with your mental health too, of not just feeling like, my gosh, like you said, I've got to constantly beat up my body. Like, no, that is not the goal here at all. I know I hear from a lot of women that are like endurance athletes that love the long, slow, steady pace type work, like long runs. And they're like, well, that can't not be good for me. And it's like, no, that stuff is good. Like movement is movement. Like, that's great. But you just know that it is not what science has shown is the best way for women in that season of life and kind of women in general to build and maintain muscle and strong bones. Okay. Yeah. So if you are someone that's like, okay, but I love running distances and I don't want to give that up. Great. Still do that. Right. But then also program in and build in your resistance training, your HIIT training. And then know that on the days, like when you are doing more of your endurance work, like your nutrition, you need to make sure you're getting enough carbs and protein to help with recovery and to make sure that you are not in the face of inadequate caloric intake and inadequate caloric intake and inadequate carbohydrate intake losing muscle mass because your body will be breaking down muscle to create the energy that it needs to support the demands of that training. It's like robbing Peter to play Paul.
Yeah. And then that's where injuries happen. You're not eating enough to...
And burnout and low energy availability and loss of lean mass and bone density. So definitely not saying don't enjoy your long distance endurance stuff if that's your jam.
Oh yeah. When you go to races, I mean, most of those people who are like, I remember when I first got into racing, I would find someone to be like, all right, I'm going to try to beat them. Do not pick out one of these older people who like they run past you and it's like 76 is their age written on their leg and they are just booking it and cruising. You're not catching up to them because that's what they do when they retire. Like they spend all day running. You can do that and there's space for that, but you have to be lifting heavy.
You need to also be doing the lifting and the higher muscles. Intensity work. So yeah, I mean, with menopause, you no longer have the joys of a period.
Yeah.
Use some sarcasm there when I say joy.
Well, we're flipping the script, right? We're making periods not be
that's true. Yes.
Traumatic.
It's your new birthday for the rest of your life. You no longer have a menstrual cycle that's going to be dictating things. So then instead you have to switch to stimulating the central nervous system to compensate for that decline in estrogen, and working in that like 2-to-1, 2 weeks on, 1 week deload week, and get in your strength training and your HIIT training and keep moving.
Yeah. I think that's good.
I think that's, short and sweet, to the point. Till next time.
Good luck.
Thanks for spending your time with us. If you found this podcast helpful, we would love for you to share it with your friends and family. And don't forget to subscribe on your podcast platform. If you have nutrition or fitness questions you want answered on future episodes, we would love to hear from you. You can submit these questions to our email, thenutritionrevolutionpodcast@gmail.com, and follow us on Instagram @thenutritionrevolutionpodcast.